you. I'd love to hear about your summers. Later.
She is, and always will be, TV's Whitley Gilbert.
Prissy, Southern, loud, wrong, rude.
It wasn't the most popular black character. It was one of the most popular characters on TV.
You can't always predict who the audience is going to fall in love with. They fell in love with Whitley.
Would you believe the Mandalay Inn was completely booked, even the presidential suite? You would think it was a holiday.
Jasmine Guy shot to fame on A Different World, one of the most groundbreaking sitcoms of its time.
A Different World tripled the enrollment of historically black colleges and college period.
Audiences of color were starving for images of folks that looked like them.
But Jasmine was so much more than Whitley and proved it again and again.
How can you ever trust a criminal?
Hey, sis, I'm looking at you a whole lot different now.
If you keep with me, there are other skills I can employ that will give your life a turn for the strange and the painful.
That role is more like me than any role I've ever played.
Dancer, singer, actress, choreographer, director, teacher.
Jasmine is much more than a triple threat. I mean, she's just a threat. You know what I mean? She's a beast.
But more than 20 years after A Different World, Jasmine Guy still struggles to escape from the character that made her a star.
I need to go out and get dressed and come back in as Whitley, because you miss that bitch, don't you?
People just scream Whitley. They can't even differentiate between the fact that that's Jasmine.
Yes.
Wow. It's tough because that's not how she talks. That's not how she is.
She literally is Whitley's polar opposite, and she actually detested Whitley.
You think I'm Whitley. I don't think I'm Whitley. And I'll meet somebody who's like, man, I want to marry me some Whitley. I'm like, you did? For real?
Unparalleled, untold, unsung Hollywood. Jasmine Guy. Jasmine Guy was born in 1962 in Boston, the oldest of two girls. Her parents, Jay and William, a white school teacher and a black Baptist minister, moved the family to New York and then to Atlanta, where they both took teaching jobs when she was 7.
You might wonder why a black man and his white wife and his 2 little yellow children moved down to the South in 1969 at a pretty volatile time.
My mother got her dashiki, came down to Atlanta, lived in an entirely black community, and dealt with it like a champ.
Her father is like a pillar of the black community. And at the time, you know, he's married to a non-black woman. So, yes, it was a big deal.
William Guy taught philosophy and religion at Morehouse College, one of the country's oldest and most esteemed HBCUs.
We grew up across the street here, but this is where we rode our bikes, and we thought we went to Morehouse. You couldn't tell us nothing, especially my little sister. She had a Morehouse beanie. We wore maroon and white. She was a little 5-year-old baby girl thinking she went to Morehouse. Broke her heart to tell her that, you know, girls weren't allowed.
You actually had a chance to be mentored by professional people, and it gives you a great sense of what you might want to be in your life.
Both of my parents were teachers, and that was kind of hard sometimes. There was always some way we could do something better.
Life at home may have been challenging for Jasmine, but on the street, it was just straight up hard.
Living in Atlanta was when the accents were really profound, and they used to circle me on the playground and make me say things. Say something, say something. And I'd be like, what? And they go, see, man, I told you she talked proper. But once the adjustment was made, I just really imitated everybody at my school. I'd be like, you know, Tracy talk like this, and Miss Panky talk like this. Do everybody, little Debbie talk like this, and because it was fast, it was like a language, you know.
She was really
the only light-skinned student, and she was teased about that, and her mother and I were quite concerned.
When you're light-skinned, you have long hair, and you talk proper, you are like, target. And then my sister was sweet and quiet and angelic, so she was super targeted. There was a time when the whole school was waiting for us on the corner to kick my sister's butt, and the one white teacher in the school had to drive us home.
I grew up with the sense of hope that people weren't going to see color, but that wasn't the reality I was living in. I definitely stuck out in Atlanta.
One of the places that Jasmine sought refuge was her father's church, where she sang in the choir and performed in shows.
I remember once the church had a style show and she was 4 years old, and she did that model walk at 4. I had no clue where she had seen it. Brought the church down.
I don't remember when I didn't want to dance or act or sing. Mary Poppins was the album that I just wore out, you know, and I knew all the songs and danced around the house.
I was fortunate enough to teach her all through high school. Taught her ballet and modern, and when she got on that stage, she was larger than life.
When I dance, there's a connectedness. When you're that perfectly in the rhythm, when everything is pulsing at the same time, it is euphoric.
Jasmine studied dance at the Atlanta School for the Performing Arts and the Atlanta Ballet. Then, when she was 16, the Alvin Ailey Dance Troupe came to town.
I think they auditioned like 100 people or something, and nobody got into the company, but they awarded 6 people scholarships for the summer. So that was the plan.
I didn't think she was ready for auditioning for Ailey, but I peeked in the window. She shocked me. She knew she was ready.
I went to New York for the summer with plans to go to school in September, but then I got into the 3rd company at Ailey's, and once I got a paycheck, I was like, I'm professional now, $75 a week.
I must confess, I wanted to see her finish college or go to college, do that first, and then exercise her talent.
She had to go out there without the real support of your parents. And these are parents that are close to you and love you. And then to get to New York and have to work extra hard to even make it possible to stay there, I think her strength really showed itself.
After 2 years of training with Ailey, Jasmine began touring with the Junior Company. Then, in 1980, a production of West Side Story, starring Debbie Allen, opened in the same building as the Ailey Academy in New York.
Debbie Allen has definitely been one of my greatest influences and mentors. And I used to kind of dream about, you know, meeting her or seeing her.
At the time, I was starting a series called Fame, and I was looking for young, gifted dancers, and she came to the audition, lied about her age, and I knew that she had lied, but I didn't care because she was so wonderful.
There were like 200 kids at that audition, and some of the best dancers I've ever seen. They wanted us to look like we could be in high school, but we had to do everything. African, jazz, ballet, point, tap.
Jasmine got the gig as a background dancer in Fame and went to Los Angeles to shoot the series. But after a year, she quit and returned to New York, her eyes set on a bigger prize.
I didn't want to be in the chorus anymore, you know, and making that transition was difficult. It took time. I know how to sing, I know how to act, and I know how to dance. Like, kind of trust me on this.
It took 2 years before Jasmine made it to Broadway in a musical called Leader of the Pack. But her big break would come a year later when she auditioned for a new sitcom about life in a historically black college.
And I just said, okay, I'm going to go in and not be as close to myself. I'm going to be as big as I can get away with, you know.
Let's be reasonable. Do you honestly believe I'd let that buzzard into my boudoir? But I dare you to find anybody at Hellman in Virginia, or indeed this entire free world who could claim to have breached my fortress.
In 1987, Jasmine Guy landed the most important audition of her career. She was asked to read for a part in A Different World, the spin-off of TV's biggest hit, The Cosby Show.
Ann Beats, who came in as executive producer, head writer, said this show needs a BITCH.
I got a call from Jasmine, and she said, Daddy, they want me to be a Southern Belle. I don't know anything about being a Scarlett O'Hara. I said, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Just think back to when you were in 5th grade at Peoples Street School, and your favorite teacher was named Miss Pinker. Do your Miss Pinker.
Just put him over on my bed. I really wish you could have been there with me. I just hate shopping alone. I can never decide what I want, so I just buy everything.
That's where I got the Whitley accent from. That's really how my 3rd grade teacher talked.
It was like, I'm just gonna do it. What? Let's see what happens. I've got to stand out somehow.
Many people were auditioned, and then in came Jasmine, and she knocked it out of the park, even though the part is about as far removed as she is as you can possibly imagine.
Not only did she read for the part, but they gave it to her, and she walked from the audition right into the table read. I mean, she went right in.
Just like that, Whitley Gilbert was born.
Hi, Denise. I couldn't help but notice you after calculus class. You looked stricken. If you need any help, feel free to come to me. I'm just a natural with figures.
We created this woman who, had lineage and money and her nose a little bit up in the air.
Whitley Gilbert, the spoiled Southern belle. That was an incredible character that she created. You know, from the voice to the mannerisms to the absurdities.
One of the reasons people love the character Whitley so much, she said those things that you thought but wouldn't say. She had very little filter.
I kind of thought that Black people wouldn't like her because they would, they'd be like, what is that? But people would come up to me and say, you know, people call me Whitley. And I'd be like, is that a good thing? So there was the Black Southern belle. I just didn't know about him.
But they sure knew about Whitley. In season 1, A Different World centered around Cosby alum Lisa Bonet and her white roommate Marissa Tomei. But by season 2, they were gone, and Jasmine quickly emerged as the show's must-see star.
My ex-husband and I stood transfixed before the television and said, she's wonderful, and she's carrying this show.
Whitley's character became so popular, and Jasmine's star was burning so bright that whenever you were in a scene with her, you had to make sure you came to work, because otherwise you would get knocked off the screen.
The 35th meeting of the Sister Order of Gamma Phi Gamma Fraternity, Incorporated. Meow. Meow.
And not just on TV. In 1988, with A Different World pulling in 20 million viewers, Jasmine appeared with co-stars Darryl Bell and Kadeem Hardison in Spike Lee's School Days, a movie she shot before auditioning to be Whitley.
As a guy, when you see something that lovely, you just go, wow, she's gorgeous.
Jasmine knew director Spike Lee from his days as a student at Morehouse, where her father taught.
I used to dance over there for their coronation, for their fashion shows. And that's how I met Spike. And after I saw She's Gotta Have It, that's when he was saying, you know, I'm doing another movie. Don't mess up, you need to call me.
Pickaninny, Barbie doll. Hi, yellow heifer. Tar baby. Wanna be white, jigaboo. Don't start. We're gonna finish it.
In School Days, Jasmine came straight up against an incendiary reality that she knew about firsthand.
That was an issue for her, you know, her parenting, you know, that she's Black and white.
A lot of her friends were on the opposite side, the dark-skinned chicks, and she was on the light-skinned chicks, and how they had to spew all these evil and mean things at each other.
There were tears during that movie because it had been hours and hours of going back and forth, chanting back and forth, the jigaboos and the wannabes. It was a very tense day. I mean, it was hard. It was hard to do that. It was very hateful.
Said, I can't believe that's Jasmine. She is so unlike that personality. But that, you know, that's what you, if you're a really fine actress, that's what you can do.
I just remember my husband, Norman Nixon, who was a former NBA All-Star basketball player. He came home one day, and Jasmine got out the pool, and he was with some of his basketball guys. They just went crazy. They lost their minds. I said, you see, honey, he doesn't have to go anywhere. He can just come home, see it right here, and then pay up in that bedroom over there.
Denise, look, the one in the baggy chinos can't take his eyes off me. I think he's looking at me.
By 1988, 26-year-old Jasmine Guy had gone from Hollywood unknown to household name virtually overnight, and her world was changing fast.
I'm gonna tell you, me and Monica went to Michael Jackson at the Omni, and that was one of the first times I actually got kind of swarmed. But it wasn't a personal threat. I wasn't used to that kind of celebrity, and I didn't necessarily want it. I wanted to still be able to hang out.
But that would soon be impossible. By season 2, A Different World was a top 10 series, and director-producer Debbie Allen decided to double down on Whitley.
Whitley, that character, took over the show, really. When you really look at it, you know, from where it started, her role was more of a sort of a co-star, and then she became the star of the whole show, along with Kadeem Hardison, of course.
When they first introduced the idea of Dwayne and Whitley together, I was a little kind of like, are people gonna buy that?
Debbie, she was like, oh no, darling, this show's gonna be about Whitley and Dwayne, and y'all are gonna get together. I said, wait a minute, Whitley doesn't even like Dwayne. She thinks he's an idiot. How is that gonna work?
Hey man, my name's Dwayne Wayne. You know, for you to be sitting here all alone like this, it pains me. Why are you all alone?
Oh, shut up and let's dance.
All right, a woman thinks for herself. I like it. It scares me, but I like it.
Kadeem, look at me when I come in the room. Oh, okay. He was like eating ice cream one day, and I was like, hello. We need sexual tension. He said, okay, what's that? I said, like, you know, it needs to start building.
They were really opposites. So it was like almost like this kind of black Romeo and Juliet from, you know, two different sides of the tracks.
I was like, so what does Dwayne bring out in Whitley that she doesn't have with anybody else? And it would be, you know, she surrenders to him. She allows herself to be vulnerable. And she doesn't do that with anybody else.
There wasn't a lot of black love on television, so showing that to people gave them something to dream about, something to think about.
Jasmine's love life off-screen was also in a good place. While romancing Dwayne on TV, she was in a long-term relationship with actor Dominic Hoffman, her pre-Dwayne boyfriend on A Different World.
I wasn't famous when we started dating. That's why I knew he really liked me. He really cared about me because he knew me. We were on the same page, and he was also an actor, so there was a lot that we had in common. After that relationship is when I wasn't sure what people liked.
While Whitley's roller coaster romance with Dwayne was a primetime smash, Jasmine was about to return to the big screen in a role that was light years away from Whitley.
Smalls, good evening.
I know that's Smalls, but who's that girl with her? She is beautiful.
That's the mistress of a famous gangster up here by the name of Bugsy Calhoun.
In late 1988, Jasmine had heard the buzz about a new movie being written and directed by Eddie Murphy, Harlem Nights.
I saw him at a party, and he said, "So, how's it feel? You all famous now?" and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it's cool, but, you know, I couldn't even get in to audition for Harlem Nights. So the next day, he called and offered me the part. And I was like, "Is this an audition?" He was like, "No, you have to calm down."
I believe we've met. My name is Quick.
My name is Dominique LaRue, Mr. Quick. Charmed to make your acquaintance.
LaRue. That's a French name, right?
Creole. Born and raised in Louisiana.
I was so excited. They told me to be at work at 6 hours there at 5:15, waiting for the gates to open at Paramount.
Jasmine's character, Dominique LaRue, was a gangster's mall, sent to seduce and kill Murphy's character.
What kind of work do you do?
Whatever's required.
And you're interested in me. Is that business or is that a personal interest?
Both.
She was cold, you know, and hardcore cold. So hardcore cold, it kind of turned me on.
I'd like to go upstairs. Are you coming?
I think it made people see me as a more mature person, because Whitley is not mature.
Jasmine's character in Harlem Nights couldn't have been more polar opposite, and deftly played.
How can you ever trust a criminal?
Hey, sis, I'm looking at you a whole lot different now.
I'm sorry, Ernest. It's only business.
This is personal.
Yeah, I don't like to watch that one. That little scene is not cute to me. With her on top of Eddie Murphy, it's a little awkward for me to watch.
But her fans didn't seem to mind. Harlem Nights pulled in $95 million at the box office.
Just try to make.
And Jasmine's star continued to rise. 1 year after the release of Harlem Nights, and fresh off of winning her second of 6 NAACP Image Awards for Whitley, she made an even bigger stretch.
I got a phone call from Benny Medina, who was a vice president at Warner Brothers Records. And he said, "We're working on an album for Jasmine Guy. We'd like to know full force." Yes! Yes, Benny, yes, yes.
Baby, I've been wondering, when will you begin to let me in your heart?
I didn't know Jasmine could sing. I didn't care, you know, because I had such a crush on Jasmine Guy from the first time I saw her on A Different World.
I really love funk and R&B, so I really wanted to be the front girl, Shaka Khan, the Rufus, or, you know, Mother's Finest, where we created songs and wrote songs that meant something to us.
Jasmine's single, Try Me, was a top 20 hit and a stunning breakaway from a different world.
Yo, I know y'all know me as Whitley. I know y'all know me as just the actress. But y'all need to try me. You know, you need to try me.
Jazz was dancing her ass off. She was just hot, such a dope hard worker too. And I was like, wow, look at this.
Full Force, who I'd never met, seemed to capture me and try me without having met me. It was awesome. It was very exciting. Roommate. It was a Toyota hatchback. And I don't know, I had that car forever. And one day I was going to Arsenio, and the other guest coming out was Cissy Houston, Whitney's mom. And she rolled her window down from the back of her car and she said, "It's okay, baby. It's time. You can get a new car."
This is the first Christmas present I ever gave you. I can't believe you're gonna give this back.
It's kind of hard to look at Bunny anymore.
Okay, well, I guess you gotta do what you feel is right. Me too.
For 4 highly rated seasons, Whitley Gilbert and Dwayne Wayne's comically tortured romance helped make A Different World a primetime hit. Then, in season 5, a new man appeared on the scene.
Young black women back then, you know, you're not used to a young black woman being the center of like a love triangle.
By the time we got to the wedding, I was looking at that like, hey, y'all, like, what? Really? I'm gonna break up her wedding?
I fought them about that Dwayne breaking up the wedding thing. I thought it was so corny and overdone. And Debbie just looked at me and she said, oh, we're doing that, Miss Thing.
Will you? Whitley, I love you, and if you'll have me, I want you to be my wife.
And when he says, I object, and the audience applauded and responded, and I was like, okay, I was wrong. Okay, it's working.
Will you have me, Dwayne, as your lawfully wedded husband from this day forth to having a whole and richer for poorer? Baby, please, please.
I do.
I loved it when Whitley got to show her broken heart. She's a wonderful actress, and to be able to create this almost caricatural character who had this human core was this extraordinary feat.
Indeed, Jasmine's portrayal of Whitley had been so utterly convincing from day one that viewers assumed Jasmine was just channeling herself. Not so.
She was sheltered, I was not. I think she grew up around a lot of white people, I did not. She definitely had a class thing going on. I think we were very different that way.
She actually detested Whitley, and it was sometimes difficult for her to play Whitley because it was so far removed from everything she was and everything she believed in.
With Whitley, it would be very quick, but there was a complete change. You would know when I wasn't in character. You know what I mean?
But Whitley was now so big that Jasmine began to worry about becoming a prisoner of her own success.
It was her greatest fear, and it is very difficult when you play that emblematic a character who really is known to generations of people.
She has so much more to offer than just that one character, but I mean, that is how people know her.
I was concerned about her being typecast and not being able to reach her full potential as an actor outside of that role.
After A Different World, I didn't know if I was being seen.
So much so that when NBC canceled A Different World during season 6 in 1993, Jasmine was ready to let Whitley go. But NBC wasn't.
The network actually offered us another show, a spinoff with her. And we were going to take her and Dwayne Wayne and Ron and Cree Summers, the 4 of them. But she didn't want to play the character anymore.
We kind of milked Whitley and Dwayne like an old cow. I mean, we broke them up, we put them together. I didn't entertain doing it any longer, at least doing that part.
I said, be careful, be sure you know about this decision you're making, because you'll see it's not so easy to find another character that the world embraces like that.
Sir, I'm gonna say this as politely as possible. I will you up.
Now what? I deliberately chose roles that would continue to stretch me. I wanted as much challenge in doing other characters as I have with Whitley.
When Jasmine Guy said goodbye to Whitley Gilbert in 1993, she was burnt out on the weekly sitcom grind and ready to slow things down.
I really didn't know what my life was looking like. You know, in the early part of my life, I could envision things. And now I didn't have any vision.
For the rest of the 90s, she picked her projects carefully, appearing in Queen, a 1993 miniseries about slavery, and writing a book about 60s activist and mother of Tupac, Afeni Shakur. Then, while starring as Velma Kelly in a production of Chicago, Jasmine met investment banker Terrence Duckett.
I was there for about 4 months, and we dated that whole time. Every man that I have a relationship with, I don't think this is going to be my husband. I don't think that always has to be it. But I did know with him. I felt right in my life, too, and I felt that we were in the same places in our lives.
It was something she embraced full on.
Jasmine and Terrence married in August of 1998, and their daughter, Imani, was born the next year.
I was so grateful because I did not take it for granted that I would have a healthy baby, that I would have a baby on my own, that I'd be married and have a baby. So I was very, very happy. That brought Imani everywhere with me. I mean, since she's been here, she's been everything I've ever done.
I thought it was pretty normal. I like going to work with Mommy and sitting in the hair and makeup and just observing everything is pretty cool.
You take these damn tickets back!
Hold up now. Now, I can tolerate you cursing me out, screaming at me, disrespecting my vehicle, but don't you ever put your hands on me.
In 2003, when Imani was 4, Jasmine returned to TV as a meter maid Grim Reaper in Showtime's acclaimed series, Dead Like Me. If she still needed to prove she wasn't Whitley, this was it.
I loved that role. I mean, that show could have run for 6 years. I had so much fun. That role is more like me than any role I've ever played.
Let me tell you something. I am trying to do my job, which is definitely my day job. If you keep with me, there are other skills I can employ that will give your life a turn for the strange and the painful.
I used to feel like I'm not doing nothing. Half the I said was ad-lib and they kept using it. Can you give us a minute, Jason? Go off, okay? My sister said I liked that role because I got to cuss on camera, but that was fun too. Because we couldn't say on a different world.
When I was little, I said, why is everybody coming up to you for a different world? This show is so much better than that.
God made a mistake. He wants you to go back to the way you were. God wants you to be an asshole.
But as Jasmine's career was catching a second wave, her marriage to Terrence Duckett was going under.
During the 10 years that we were married, I don't know. I don't know why we broke up. I mean, I don't have one reason why we broke up, other than it wasn't working anymore for both of us.
Listen, divorce sucks. There's no sweet way to do it. I don't care if you call it conscious uncoupling or what the you're trying to name it. It's still divorce, and it's awful.
I never wanted a divorce. And I wanted a family. You know, I wanted a partner. I don't want to do all this by myself. Did something die inside? I was broken.
So much so that Jasmine decided to put her career on hold and go home.
I was surrounded by love. They were happy to see me, you know what I mean? They were happy to have me there. They wanted my stories. It wasn't just like another rotten orange on the ground. LA got too many oranges. They're all on the ground.
Sometimes, if you're lucky enough to still have a home to go to, you gotta go home. You gotta let your parents help take care of you and build you back up.
Atlanta, it turned out, was also able to breathe new life into Jasmine's career.
With the expansion of the film and television industry, a kind of reemergence of theater here. I mean, she's here at a great time.
You ain't done. Come on, work with me. Let's do something on the stages of Atlanta. And so I hired her to do a couple of shows, and she performed in it, and then she directed for me.
I just said yes to whatever people were offering me. You want to play Miss Evers with Kenny Leon directing? Yes. You want to do Blues for an Alabama Sky? Yes. Inside I was going, I don't know why these people think I can do all this.
I think what makes Jasmine Guy special as an artist is her foundation. And that comes from all of that dance training, you know? So she feels it from her body first, and then it feels her heart and her mind.
Look how big this stage is.
In 2016, Jasmine Guy is back where she grew up, on the campus stage at Morehouse College in Atlanta.
This place was just huge to me. I remember when, so I had a little chiffon skirt on that was Velcroed at the waist, and my skirt popped open. And I felt so naked. I was just like, in front of Morehouse, you know, and all I knew was, you know, keep on. And they lost their minds. And that's when I said, okay, I want to do this.
And since then, Jasmine has never stopped. Recent projects include KC Undercover, Tyler Perry's If Loving You Is Wrong, and the one-woman play Raising Cain, a Harlem Renaissance odyssey.
I built my hut near the Congo, and it loved me sleep.
I put that decade in context for people, you know, after World War I, before the Great Depression with Booker T. Washington, Du Bois, Garvey. It was the birth of jazz. It was the birth of freedom. It was a celebratory decade.
Offstage, Jasmine finds other opportunities to perform, especially with her 17-year-old daughter Imani, an aspiring actress.
Answer me. You drove here?
No.
Who drove you here?
He was perfectly nice. He was a gentleman.
You hitched
I don't see what
with
the big
a
deal
stranger?
is.
Are you out of your mind? Do you know what's going on?
I feel my mom's path is very unique for some actors, and I don't expect mine to be like that at all. So I have hesitations about the field that I feel many other starting actors have, but they don't have anything to do with my mother.
Imani recently landed her first professional role in a play about the Atlanta child murders called Serial Blackface.
I wasn't trying to do what my parents did, but when you do, I think there's an added pressure with comparing, so she's got to, you know, she's got to do what she wants to do. Period.
You could have been killed. I'm taking you back to the place right now. You get your thing.
As soon as I come home. I see how we look alike and definitely how we act alike, and we have the same sense of humor. But I raised her. Of course I'm gonna raise somebody who's gonna laugh at my jokes. You don't raise somebody who's not gonna laugh at your jokes. That was good. If you ever talk to me like that, I'd kick your ass. It's very natural and very real. Excelente.
Jasmine's family has been in her corner from day one, but at this point in her life, there is a missing piece.
I would like to have a boyfriend or a partner. I don't know what you call men when you're 54. Boyfriend sounds so juvenile. I would like a man. I don't know if I'd want a husband.
It's always good to have a companion, somebody that loves you, so of course I want her to be happy.
Man, I think the type of man that Jasmine needs is me! No, seriously, just kidding.
I like direct and kind of funny and witty and fine and smelling good. How about that? Right off the bat, that's what I would respond to.
That could be a description of Jasmine herself, or Whitley. 20-plus years after A Different World, Jasmine has made peace with her larger-than-life character. Or has she?
I need to go out and get dressed and come back in as Whitley, because you miss that bitch, don't you? That's what's really underlying this. Hi, P. Frank. Oh, I like your shoes. Did you get those in New York? No. I need a cigarette. You driving me nuts.
What we got to remember is that the character that she brought to life is that's going to be legendary forever, you know? I mean, that's really forever. So no, that's not something that you should run from.
She grew tired of it and wanted to distance herself from it, but I think she's realized that's just not possible.
Some people are fans from the show. Some people are fans from other situations. Someone stopped me in Whole Foods the other day, and I was just ready for the, you know, I love that show, whatever. And he said, I loved your book. I said, you read my book? Come here, man. Don't you want a picture?
I never knew that one place could mean so much to a person. And I'll never forget any of you.
I'm going with you, baby.
We'll never forget any of you.
She will always have a legacy in a show that really made a difference in the community to uplift
I have heard a lot of people say, you're the reason I went to college, and so if she was a part of that, I think that it's pretty cool.
There's an energy, there's a honesty, and there is a passion that it is either there or it is not. She always had that fire.
From her one-woman show to every other aspect of her life, she's shown I can evolve.
I can't change anything about the past. I don't know why we have to keep going over it again.
Well, I'll be waiting for you whenever you're ready.
Actors are like sharks. They got to keep moving to the next thing and find what's happening next. And she's a perfect example of that.
The more you swim, the farther you can go and the better you become. So she's really sailing right now, and I'm really proud of her.
What I would want to do next is play a ghetto crackhead. So I could do that too, but you know, they don't always give me those kind of parts.